We're here at Summer Game Fest, and we just saw Alan Wake 2 behind closed doors. Ryan, what's your main takeaway from this demo?
30-minute demo.
Yeah.
It's being played live on a PlayStation 5. And I think, Destin, this is my favorite thing that I've seen here so far. I mean, we've seen some good stuff, don't get me wrong, but I personally love Alan Wake. It's one of my favorite original games from the Xbox 360 era, one of the great new IPs back then. It was always such a shame we never got the sequel, and now, improbably, we finally are. And, honestly, it looks great. I mean, it looks like a next-gen game, number one, and they're using their own in-house tech, which Remedy always has. The the faces look amazing, the environments look amazing, and it's, it's tough to get any sense for the sort of scary, the horror side of it when you're in a, a well-lit room with lots of other people. But hearing the same voice actor for Alan Wake again, and they have James McCaffrey, no relation, he's appears in all their games. He's voicing one of the other detectives, and so there's the familiar, there's the comforting sense of the familiar, but this is absolutely a new game. If you played Alan Wake 1, that was a third-person action-adventure game. This is a third-person survival horror game, much sort of slower. The camera's pulled in tighter than it was with the first game, and it's, the pace is slower in a creepy way. There's the investigative work that you're doing, piecing together the case and what's going on.
Yeah, you kind of go into your character's mind space, or whatever they called it, and you solve the case throughout that process. It's really an interesting system.
Yeah, and it feels like, I know a 30-minute demo is tough to get a great sense, but it seems like it's going to be a big game. Not 60-hour kind of thing, but bigger than the first one, put it that way. Where I was talking to Sam Lake, I did an interview with him behind closed doors afterwards, and he said, yes, this is the biggest game we've ever made. Players expect, I asked him, well, what's the biggest thing, the biggest difference for player expectations now with Alan Wake 2 compared to Alan Wake 1 13 years ago? And they said, it's a 6-hour linear game that's not really replayable doesn't cut it anymore for people that are spending $60 on a game. So they say it's their biggest game yet. What that means, hour-wise, who knows, but I just was really impressed top to bottom. I mean, you got to see it too. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, they tried to talk down how good it looks. They're like, this is an early build. It's like a beta. And then they show it, and I'm like, this looks great. What are you talking about? So really impressed by the visual aspects of it. They are still polishing a few things within the game engine, but it's definitely a mood piece when you're playing it. You have to go in with the mindset that you're solving a mystery, and it's a little slower pace for a lot of the investigative portion.
Right.
But then, of course, the action segments kind of are sparse throughout with sort of visions that hint towards the solution to the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed how they sort of stitched it all together, all those different design goals. Right?
And on that note too, one thing I thought was really interesting is, so there are two campaigns that you can bounce back and forth. There's Saga, the new FBI agent, who is kind of sort of embodying the player in that either like me, you played Alan Wake, but it's been so long you don't remember, and so she's she's new to all this, she's learning about all of it, or she's embodying the players that didn't play Alan Wake 1 and just sort of learning about all of this just like new players are.
Yeah.
But they said you can bounce back and forth between the two of them mission-wise. Alan is in the dark place, which if you finished Alan Wake 1, it doesn't end well necessarily for Alan. Or you can play as Saga, but they said it's not a scripted set thing. You don't just do one then go back to the other. You can do 3 Alan missions and then go back to Saga. So I'm curious how the player freedom aspect of that, how that's going to gel with the narrative of trying to, if you just decide to power through all of the Alan Wake side of it, how's that going to make sense in the story when you come back to the Saga side and you're still really early on with her. But so
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm really curious about.
It was also really interesting that they said they've been working on it for 13 years, and within the demo that we saw, Alan Wake's been out of commission for that exact period of
Yeah.
time. I like that though, because as a player, if you're a big Alan Wake fan, you're coming back to this game, and Alan Wake has been in the same state of stasis as you have.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not just they're not just picking up like a year later.
Yeah.
Like they've actually allowed for the same passage of time that us as players are experiencing as well.
So overall, pretty excited about it?
I really truly am. Like this thing, I mean, this fall is going to be busy, right? I mean, there's a ton of big games coming out this fall, and there's a ton of big games out now. Alan Wake 2 is really high on my list. Like I said, I of all the great stuff here, it's been my favorite thing so far. We still have one more day to go after today, but yeah, it looks great, and if it's not on your radar, I recommend you get it on your radar.
Well, thank you for your insight, Ryan, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more on Alan Wake, you're already in the right place. IGN.